There's a strange thing about anxiety. The only real judgment that exists is the one we place on ourselves. And yet it feels easier to stay on the anxious side of life than to cross over into something lighter, like joy, or even just a calm breath. I wrote something down the moment we were leaving for Portugal. For about a week leading up to the flight, my anxiety had been slowly building. Nothing dramatic, just a steady rise. And about 5 hours before we were set to leave for the airport, it peaked. And it wasn't just me. We were flying from Canada to Portugal with our little rescue dog, Frankie. She's anxious on a good day, so my mind had plenty of material to work with. What if she panics? What if the flight is rough? What if I panic? What if I can't handle it without medication? That's the thing about anxiety. A harmless thought shows up, and instead of letting it pass, we defend against it. And the more we defend, the more real it feels. Fiction starts layering over fiction until you're bracing yourself for something that hasn't happened. It's exhausting. By the time we got to the airport, my head had already taken the trip 10 times. Frankie had medication prescribed by the vet. I had medication prescribed by my doctor. Frankie took hers. I decided not to take mine. Brave or stubborn, I wasn't sure. But I wanted to see if I could stay with the moment instead of the story. The first flight went smoothly. Frankie was incredible, calm, quiet, heroic, really. And me? I stayed present, not perfectly, but enough. Breath by breath, step by step. And then we landed in Montreal, then eventually Portugal. Safe, sound, uneventful. All the stories I'd written in my head dissolved the moment reality showed up. Frankie was fine, I was fine, the flight was fine, and that's when it hit me. I had spent a week in catastrophes that never ended. Anxiety had me rehearsing pain that never arrived. That's what it does. It pulls from the past and projects into the future. It convinces you history will repeat. It convinces you disaster is responsible thinking. But reality rarely looks like the script anxiety writes. And this time, the present moment won. The vet's prescription worked beautifully for Frankie, and presence worked for me. That doesn't mean anxiety disappears forever. It doesn't mean I've mastered anything. It just means that this time I didn't let fiction run the show. One real moment beat 1,000 imagined ones. And maybe that's all growth really is. Not eliminating anxiety, but choosing to live in reality more often than in fear. That's today's podcast. We made it to Portugal. Frankie is doing fine, and so am I. If this podcast meant something to you, please share it or hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. You can follow me on TikTok or Facebook, or find me on the web at trippingovermyself.com. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you again in the next episode.